What's up, guys? Zach at Grip It Customs here. I wanted to come to you with a little video on a couple how I do things. It's not the way. There are many different ways when it comes to stippling and doing borders. A lot of guys have a lot of different methods. Some like to share them, some do not. I had to learn from some YouTube videos and just trial and error on my own stuff, obviously. So I'm gonna give you just a couple quick how I do things. I'm stippling this SIG frame today. What I use to draw my lines on where I want to be is just a pencil or a marker that I have that wipes off real easy. I use it most of the time. I got the pencil, the lines drawn. A lot of you can freehand it, but once you've started, you can't really erase. So I like to kind of see where my lines are going to be. I'm probably going to do this one. I'm not 100% sure if I like any of this or what I'm going to do down here just yet. But for educational purposes, I'll probably be cutting this line, So a lot of frames, if you are not careful, you can go through them. Some are different thicknesses. Some polymers have more fiberglass in them, so they're harder. Some are softer, so forth. So you really got to be careful on, you know, if you're going to be taking off some texture to retexture, then you got to be careful on how deep you go. You got to be careful on how deep you make your borders. Once you've went through, you know, somebody's frame, if you're going to do this, you know, as a side hobby, then you don't want to be tearing up people's stuff. What I do, I'll turn the light off here, so it'll be a little darker. Typically, I use my phone usually, but I'm recording with it. But you can use a light, one that's not too bright. And I will take and I will look inside of the frame and I'll put a light on it. So I know that it's pretty thick right there in the center. And then as you go up in certain areas, you'll see where it's thin. So as I'm turning to the side, I know that the frame is pretty thin right there. So for instance, right there in the middle where that finger groove is, it's semi-thick right in the middle, but these edges are thin. So that's a place that I'm not going to want to really sand at all, remove any material. Stippling should be okay, but you don't want to be removing any material pretty much through here, which is kind of right where I need to remove right here. But as long as I go just nice and easy and remove this edge, I should be fine. But that's just one way I've learned. I'm sure other people may use this method, but I just discovered it one day and it works great for me if I'm really kind of unsure. Or if I'm, you know, stippling on a frame and or removing material on a frame and I'm just not exactly sure how much more I can go. You can kind of take your finger and push on it, or using a light. Using a light, I think, is about the best method. So there's that. Real quickly, I'm going to show you that when cutting my borders, I use this tip right here. I don't know what size it is. I don't know what it's called, but it's just a cutting bit. If I can get it to focus. And when I cut, see, it's kind of square looking. When I cut, I'll cut at an angle and it just basically creates a V, a channel. And I will do that right now. My Dremel's a 4300. Usually when doing any kind of cutting like this, I ramp it up there pretty good. I don't really want to cut slow because then you get some kind of, you know, little chatter on you. So the faster it's spinning, the better it's going to cut. So I do that with that tip first. I will come back in with a very small rounded cutting bit like this. We get to focus, just a round bit. We'll turn it back on. And from there, what I do is I basically run pretty close to that little channel that I cut. And then I bring it out because I'm gonna want to sand this down a little, this edge. So I actually come out a little bit. It gives me a little more room to work. And then I'll come back in with a sanding drum and just kind of work my way up and then flatten all this out. But there's one more step I do on the recessed border after this bit, and it is a diamond bit that is just a round ball that I will come in and work with this. I typically always try to work at an angle this direction and go nice and slow. So sometimes I'll kind of run it like this nonstop while moving. But I kind of like to just, I draw a lot, so I kind of sketch. So I just kind of nice and slow and easy. Because once you run up on here, there's no going back from that. Sometimes you can sand it out and make it look right, or you can bring your line up a little bit further. But like if this was Cerakoted and you jumped it, you're blasting, fixing it, and re-Cerakoting. So same thing here. Turn the Dremel back on. Now this polymer cuts a lot easier and quicker than a Glock frame. But anyway, that will give you a nice clean, if I can get the focus, a nice clean edge right here to work with. And then I'll come back in with either a smaller or bigger sanding drum, which I'm not going to do the whole frame. I'm just literally working on this little spot to show you. Now, when sanding, I'll turn my Dremel back down. I don't want it spinning very fast. Because if it's spinning too fast, it can melt the polymer. It can just take off and cut pretty deep, remove quite a bit of material at once. And definitely don't want that. So I will go right up to the edge of where I cut, and I'll just cut it down to where I want it. It's about time for me to replace my sanding drum, so it's not cutting or sanding super fast, but that's okay. But as you can see, I'm just going to do this. And it don't have to be perfect. And this isn't meant to be fast. Some guys can crank this stuff out pretty quick. But I find that, you know, if it's a customer's, I'm taking my time. A lot of guys charge accordingly for that. But yeah, you just got to take your time. And it'll be similar to this right here. So I got some more work to do on it, obviously, but I will get a new sanding drum wheel, and then I'll work my way in just a little bit closer, and basically it kind of bumps off this edge and doesn't roll up on it, and it gives me nice, clean all the way through. And then I will take my iron, and then I usually come in. You can follow it down like this, kind of pull the material to you and build up a wall. I really just like little dots all the way. It's a little slower, but it just really, it feels a lot better to me, and it looks a lot better. And then you can come in with whatever pattern you're going to do, random dots, anything like that. So I will upload this, and then I will upload a finished product of this. If you guys liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Give it a share. I appreciate any feedback. You guys can reach me at Grip It Customs at Yahoo for questions on pricing or just questions in general. You can check us out on Instagram, Grip It Customs, or Facebook, Grip It Customs. Thanks, guys.